Star Wars The Bad Batch returns again this Friday for episode 2, Cut and Run, and I'm here to dive into it in full spoiler details. Now, of course, if you guys are new here and the Force is with you, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as well as comment down below all your guys' thoughts. Are you enjoying The Bad Batch so far? What did you think of episode 1? What are your thoughts on episode 2? I'm thoroughly enjoying this show, and I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts. Now, of course, if you guys missed my review of the first episode of Bad Batch, I will put a card up above. Make sure to go check that out, because I discussed that whole episode also in full spoiler detail. And I'll be doing the same thing for the rest of the season because I love Star Wars. This is my jam, and I'm here to talk about it. So overall, the Bad Batch Cut and Run episode returns us back to a brand new character. Well, not brand new character, but a character that we have not seen since, the Clone Wars, which was a nice little throwback to see that, because this is an obscure character that, well, not so much obscure, but from the earlier seasons of Clone Wars that was really much nice to see, because Cut is a character who was a clone that deserted and started a family, which is very, thought-provoking, because again, the clones are supposed to not think on their own. They're supposed to do and say what the chip's supposed to tell them. Now, of course, we've seen different instances with, say, Rex, and of course the Bad Batch now. Cut's an interesting character, and just seeing that these were the people that they were returning to, I know last week I thought, oh, maybe it's going to be Rex that they're meeting up with. I'm assuming Rex later comes into the season, because earlier in the episode, once they meet up with Cut, they say, oh, Rex was just here yesterday, which is interesting. And again, I can't wait to see that reunion with the Bad Batch and Rex, but and especially with Echo being a part of that whole thing. But this is just a nice little episode, one that is like a little stopping point to see where and how the aftermath again of Order 66, but in general, the aftermath and the beginnings of the Empire coming into frame, because now they're at full power, but they're using the clones. And seeing how they got from, again, Step A, which was Order 66, to where we see them in, say, Rebels and even A New Hope. This is something that I found very interesting, and again is the reason that why I'm so obsessed with Bad Batch the show. Because, yes, you're taking characters that maybe weren't, the most popular thing from, of course, Season 7 of Clone Wars. I adored them. I want a video game of them. But what they did so well was bringing those characters to life and bringing them and showing, hey, let's get a perspective from the clones. Different characters that maybe we haven't explored before, because they could have easily done Ahsoka, Rex, any one of those natures. But what they're doing is touching on characters that, again, were fan favorites, just weren't touched on too much yet. And again, seeing how now we are going to Cut, who we haven't seen in a while, and seeing how this is now affecting him and his family, how they're kind of beginning this, and just in general, a planet that's so obscure out of nowhere, and how the clones are already kind of taking over, and again, the Empire itself, how they're adding these different codes that now they must use to get off planet, which we've seen, of course, in other Star Wars properties. It's adding a bunch of different layers to it, and again, seeing that aftermath and seeing how the Empire is efficiently moving already within the span of just a couple of days. It's big and it's menacing, and again is building that tension up. But of course, this episode did have some fun things. Seeing Omega, who is honestly, again, I think going to be a hit or miss character for some people. She's a very big hit for me. I really adore her, and again, just the intrigue of her being a clone to the Bad Batch and how the Kamino people made her for a specific reason. It's going to be interesting to see how she ends up coming about throughout the entire the entire season itself. But what I really liked was seeing how she was really, again, fish out of water, playing with these kids, seeing the sand. It was very cute, and I really like her character and how adventurous she is. She doesn't get in trouble for the sake of getting in trouble. She's curious. She's a kid. And I kind of adore that, where there have been other characters like this in the past within Star Wars that, can be quite annoying. Overall, I'm really liking Omega, and I think what Dave Filoni decided to do with this character was quite important for the most of it all. But of course, moving in, they save her from that weird cat creature that I cannot remember the name to, which was nice. But the biggest thing about this is getting those cards and making sure that they can help Cut and his family get off the planet. Because of course, if Cut tries to go and reference him, they're going to find out he's a deserted clone. They end up doing it, but Tech and Echo have a different mind in their own. They get the ship impounded. They end up doing some sneaky stealth stuff, which is nice. And it always just reminds me that the Bad Batch is kind of this stealth ops, black ops team that goes in and gets the job done. And that's exactly what they do. They get the cards, they're getting the card impounded, but they, in Bad Batch form, while they're trying to be stealthy, of course that does not happen. And it becomes a whole full-blown fight with some clone troopers. They're kicking some ass, they're taking some name, but Omega takes those cards and gets it over to Hunter himself, which again, Hunter is starting to learn a little bit more about this, and Hunter for me is the most intriguing character out of the entire Bad Batch for me. I found him to just, especially in this episode alone, seeing how you know, he wants the best for Omega, but what is the best for her? Sending her off with someone else? No, it's being with the people who are just like her. And I really like that because I get Hunter's perspective, but again, seeing how Omega and what she truly wants and seeing how Hunter needs to take that responsibility, you know, that's some Star Wars stuff that you wouldn't get in a movie. But in a show, when you have that longer format where you have 30 minutes per week or so to tell a story, it's really important for me. And I really adored how they were able to tell that story. And again, seeing that kind of okay-ish goodbye between Omega and Hunter. And I just like, does anyone else ever think of Rambo when Hunter goes in the action? But we knew for a fact that once they got past that gate, that Omega was not going to go with Cut. We knew that she was going to fly over and hang out and come back with the crew, which is exactly what happens. And Hunter goes full-blown Rambo style on the clone troopers, saves her, brings her back in, and they all fly off into paradise. And they have that great conversation towards the end of the episode, which really again was heartwarming. And I'm excited to see again where this episode and in general this entire show is going. I'm 2 episodes in. I'm loving The Bad Batch so far. Yes, it hasn't had that big gigantic moment yet like the first episode did, but it really didn't need to. This was a slower episode that again progressed the story and progressed what the nature of the show is about. Yes, the overall arcing nature of the show is where the Bad Batch going, who's going after them. We know Crosshair is after them, and we know the Empire and them in general are just trying to fight them, but the Bad Batch are trying to figure out their place now in this world. What are the clones' place in this world? But the whole entire show is the aftermath of episode 3 and the beginnings before, say, Solo and Rebels. And that's what I'm looking forward to the most, is seeing how that all intersects and ties in. And each week, I feel like we're going to get a little bit more of that every single time. But other than that, guys, make sure to comment down below your guys' thoughts on this episode. I hope you guys had a great May the 4th as well. And of course, guys, until next time, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Head on over to Sandwich on Films on how to see films. And of course, it's a big thing to you and a big thing to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. So of course, until next time, stay classy.